And I'm going to put it on, in this case, I'm going to put it on with the grain orientation parallel to the bed of the lathe. Okay. How are we going to start? What are we going to do to, again, safety is an issue here, but I want to be able to hang on to this piece of wood so nothing bad can happen. And I want to give myself be in control. I'm a control freak. Control, 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 control. I'm going to probably use the word control many times today. And when we're in control and we understand the rules and we never get a catch again, catches should not be in our vocabulary. We don't need to get a catch. If we're in control, we know what's going to happen and prevent anything bad from happening. And when that happens, we're going to be working safe. And when we have that little fear in our stomach, we're going to walk up to the lathe and we're going to make another cut and say, oh, what if I get a catch? Are you having fun yet? No, so I want to take put all of the control in it, and we're working safe. So we take that fear away, and then that's when the fun starts. But if we don't get in control, if we're just trying to hope we don't get hurt and hope we don't get something aggressive going on, then being self-taught with this is a little bit tough. So seek out people in your club or somebody local that you can work with that can help you with that. Again, my DVD outlines that nicely, but it's really nice to have hands-on help too. I want to be in control of the axis and orientation of this. What is one way to start? What's a common way to start? I could just take a faceplate. Even though this is just a chainsaw cut, I could just take a faceplate and put it on there and ram some screws in it and put it on here and make a tenon for a chuck, right? Very common. Lots of people do that. What happens when I screw that faceplate on there, even though it's not safe because it's going to wobble and vibrate? What happens? I've given up my control. I'm on that axis for the duration. I can't move it or change it, or the roughing out process is an evaluation process. It's an information gathering process. I'm going to find out what's in here, and I'm going to try to make something special out of it. And I may want to move it. I could move it. I could tilt it so that the grain's lined up and the character of the grain is balanced. I could take advantage of some color characters. In this piece of wood, there's some significant, the pieces that we've had in the past here, and I think this is going to be the same kind of thing. It's got significant woodpecker damage that was damaged years ago. This one is probably about 12 or 14 years in, and it's all grown over and healed itself. And those little damages are all throughout this wood, and hopefully it's going to be in the globe of our Christmas ornament when we get that in there. So I want to evaluate this as I go, and I could move it. I could tilt it to make the grain orientation, or I could move it one way or another to make some feature prominent in my vessel, or I could have a fault or a flaw that I might want to eliminate, and I can move it to eliminate something. So while I'm between centers, I have the capability of moving it. And what's another way of putting it, of getting started? Many people, we just had a famous turner here in northern Michigan doing 3 days of hands-on classes and an all-day workshop. And his way of starting was to take a drill and drill a hole in here for the screw chuck, using a screw chuck and a screw. Okay, what do you do when you drill that hole in there? And that's usually done in bowl format, but I guess it could be done in a hollow form format. But what happens when you drill that hole in there? You're stuck on that axis. You can't move it at that point. So I want to give myself the ability to move it and evaluate and see what's going on. We get sucked into, especially in the early stages, but we get sucked into wanting to do something as big as we can. We've got this frugal gene in us, and we want to, if I've got a piece that's able to do a 5.5 inch piece out of this, by golly, I'm going to do a 5.5 inch piece. And I think I want to make that goal different. I want to make the best possible piece I can from this piece of wood, not the largest. That's going to be a secondary goal. So in order to do the best, I need to be able to maneuver it, and I'm going to start between centers to do that. All right, now if you decide maybe that's a pretty good idea, I think I'll try that. Let me get my tailstock up here if it's far enough. So I'm going to start between centers, and I've set up a drive center here. This happens to be a one-way brand, but there are a couple of them out there that have a set screw in it, and the set screw allows me to lock the pin in place, proud of sticking out from the drive teeth. Because I'm not going to use a geographical center point. If I try to figure out where the middle of this is by measuring and so forth, I'll put it on the lathe and it's not going to be on balance, and I'd have to have the lathe speed slow because of the balance would start to flop around here and make the lathe dance across the shop. So I'm going to start on a balance point instead of a geographical center point. And by using this little pin here, I'm just going to balance very lightly, delicately, just on the pin, and don't let the drive teeth hit, and bring my tailstock up. Yeah, let me move this a little bit closer. Bring my tailstock up, and then I let go. Okay, let me get the other camera on here. Okay. All right. So it's got a weight in the bottom now. What if I had my faceplate or drive center in, or live screw chuck in here, or other methods that are used? I'd be stuck on that axis, and I'd have to have the lathe really slow in order to take all of that weight off of there by the time I got it rounded off. So because the weight's down there, I'm going to lift it up now. I'm going to lift the headstock first. Okay, the weight's still in the bottom. I'm going to wait until the weight settles. When the weight's on the bottom, I'm going to move it straight up from there. I moved it a little bit crooked. You see how the weight distribution went a little bit different? Now the weight is down here. I'm going to move it up again. And I'm just barely touching that little point so that it runs freely. Ooh, look at there. Wherever I set it, it stays. Okay, wherever I set it, it stays. Now I'm on my balance point. Why did I go through all this trouble to put it on the balance point? That's not a lot of trouble. It's pretty easy to do. Because I want to get the speed of the lathe up. Speed of the lathe up is important. Speed of the lathe up is very, very helpful, especially in early stages like this. I've got corners, four corners, in this case 3 corners, flying around, and the faster I have the lathe going, the faster those air spaces go by, and I can just go right by it, and it's just effortless. If I have the speed of the lathe down, it's going to go tonka tonka, and tonka tonka is not fun, it's not safe, it's not easy, I don't want to go there. So I want to get the speed of the lathe up in the early stages, and I'm not going to use a bandsaw. Bandsaw is not designed to do wet wood. It's not designed to do thick wood unless you got this big $10,000 bandsaw. It's really not designed to do that kind of work. So we're asking a bandsaw to do something that it's not designed to do, and it's not safe to put a wobbly piece on the bandsaw table. More important than that, even though safety is my big issue there, more important than that is the fact that I don't want the bandsaw to start to influence my axis or my orientation. I don't want to get something round on a bandsaw and then stick it on the lathe and say that's my axis. I want to sneak up on this. I want to give myself information, and I can do that on the lathe slowly and find out what's in here before I make the decision that I'm going to put a chucking method together for it. Back to speed issue again. The speed needs to be going fast while I'm first starting because of air spaces and just because it's easier to make a cut whether there's air spaces or not. But it's also really important in the last stages of my cuts. When I'm taking the final cut across the surface, I want to take a slow pace across the tool rest and a fast speed. Those two things are going to leave a surface left behind that I don't have to sand so much. And I don't like to sand, so I want to make a really clean cut. And having the speed of the lathe up is very, very helpful for that. So I want to get the speed of the lathe up, so I have to start on the balance point, or you got to fight with the vibration. So, and vibration is the enemy. We don't want to go there. We'll talk about that a little bit later again. All right, so let's go back to here. Now I've got it on the balance point, and wherever I set it, it stays. There's no weight distribution funny. Now I'm going to squeeze it together between centers. I'm going to lock my spindle and lock my tailstock really tight down and start. You probably can't see it, but I'm tightening it. I guess I can look at the other camera here and tighten this down. Okay, now I'm going to try to move it. See how I can move it? Oh, that moves pretty easy. Well, what if I turn the lathe on and start turning now? That's apt to strip those drive teeth. All right, so I'm going to tighten it up some more. Tight, tight, tight. Strip those. What I'm doing is I'm jimmying those drive teeth a little bit, opening up a spot so that they can go deeper in there. Right? Now it's getting to the point where it's really hard to move. Deeper in there. Okay, now we got her going. Now, nothing can come off of this. This is tight. I don't have to worry about readjusting it and all the things. It's going to be very stable, safe, so I can get the speed up without any worry. All right. So now I'm going to put my tool rest very, very close. Let's use the other camera. I'm going to put, can't see there. Let's back off just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put my tool rest very close to the wood. Oop, not that close. Move it back a little bit. Because when I turn it on, it's just going to be a blur. I won't be able to see it. I won't be able to see the wood. Lots of air spaces there. So I know where the wood is because it's right there. Right. Okay. Now, my bowl gouge I'm going to use for almost everything here. Bowl gouge has a swept back wing. The wing is swept back about 3/4 of an inch from the tip. My tip angle is 60 degrees. I learned how to use a bowl gouge from David Ellsworth, and he uses a 60 degrees, and I fell in love with that. And I realized after I really learned how to turn how versatile this is, and so I've stayed with it all these years. I have Doug Thompson make this for me under my specifications with a parabolic flute, which is a little more friendly, a little more forgiving, and it's a little bit wider, a little bit deeper than the others. As far as the grind goes, it's almost a straight line from the tip down to the wing. It's got very small little radius on here. David and some of the others have a hump on it. I've taken the hump off because the hump gets in my way for 3 out of the 4 cuts that I do with this. And so I use this because of its versatility. There's lots of other gouges and lots of other grinds out there, and they're not good or bad. They're different for different purposes. 40-40 grind, everybody's going with that. A lot of people enjoy that, and that's got some benefits, but the problem with the 40-40 grind is that I need other tools to supplement with it, to do a bottom feeder and to undercut a shoulder, whatever. I need different angles other than the 40 degree. The 60 is a lot more versatile and it allows me to do more things with it. So it's a little more friendly, a little more forgiving than the steeper grinds of the 40 and other grinds. The 40 degree grind can be more aggressive for the beginner. It gets into the wood so fast that it's harder to control. So just a little bit easier to manage.